All right, we're on with Robert DiMaggio, owner of IronMag Labs and sponsor of this channel. And a lot of these videos that you guys see here are in help of Robert's company, IronMag Labs. So I want to thank him for coming on. And there's a few questions that I want to ask him. But first, Robert, if you can, introduce yourself to the audience for people who may not know who you are.
A lot of people don't know who I am. They probably read my name or heard of me. I've always been kind of behind the scenes, but I have been involved in bodybuilding since I was a teenager. I actually competed several times, and I realized early on I didn't really possess the genetics, to compete or be a pro bodybuilder. But I always wanted to stay in the industry. So back in it was 2001, I started a blog called Iron Magazine. And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of people will ask me, like, what is IronMag Labs? And that's where it came from. It came from Iron Magazine, my blog. Shortly after that, in 2005, is when I realized, I could sort of springboard a supplement company, off of my blog and message board. And that was in 2005, 17 years ago. And IronMag Labs, as most people know, is still in business today, and we're doing very well.
Yeah, I remember IronMag Labs originally was affiliated with Aaron Singerman and PJ Braun. How did you come, to meet them, and in what part were they involved in your company?
Yes, Aaron and PJ. So before social media existed, we all went to what are called message boards or forums. And there was one over at a company or a site called RX Muscle, which still exists today. It's more YouTube videos now. And we actually sponsor that channel as well. It's owned by Dave Palumbo. I'm sure most people, I think everybody in the industry knows who Dave Palumbo is. Well, Aaron Singerman, this is when he just had, I guess, decided he wanted to get into the bodybuilding industry. And he started working for Dave. I believe they were doing a podcast at RX Muscle, and I think he was writing some articles, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And he sent me a DM on the forums asking me if I would sponsor him in I believe it was a men's physique. I don't remember the actual show, but he was going to do men's physique. I remember that. And he just wanted to know if I would be willing to cover his expenses. I think it was 3 months, maybe, food, supplements, things like that, paying for the show entry, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, in return, he was going to do something called cardio confessionals, which I believe up until recently, was still doing those. Well, the first time he ever did it was actually when I was sponsoring to compete in the show. And if people don't know what that was, it was just really him on the treadmill, recording himself and talking. In return, he was going to wear my shirt. And because he was, working for RX Muscle, who at the time, they did a lot of show coverage. They were sort of different back then. It was more going to all the shows and covering the shows. And that's what Aaron was going to begin doing. And again, he's going to wear my shirt, promote me. So I said, yeah, I'll sponsor you to do the show. And I did. And it just sort of grew from there pretty quickly to the point where he was my full-time employee. And I don't remember, but I think we gave him a title like director of marketing or something along those lines. And shortly after, I want to say that was in 2009. So then I want to say 2010 or so, Aaron, he called me. I'm not going to say approach me, because I lived in Denver, Colorado, and Aaron, I think back there, Aaron lived in Texas, if I remember correctly. But he was friends with PJ Braun. PJ Braun at the time was actually lived in New York, where Dave Palumbo used to live. And PJ was a sponsored athlete for Dave Palumbo's supplement company, which was and is Species Nutrition. Well, what happened was, people may not know this, PJ Braun got busted for selling anabolic steroids. He didn't go to prison at that time. I believe he took a plea or something. I don't know the details on that one. And Dave fired him. And in part of it was because Dave himself, which, if you know Dave, was in prison for a year for selling growth hormone. So I don't think Dave wanted, to be affiliated with, someone else that was indicted at the time. Not indicted, it wasn't federal. I don't think it was a federal thing at that time. But anyway, long story short, Dave fired him from Species. And Aaron asked if I'd bring PJ on board IronMag Labs. And I didn't know who PJ was at this time. And what Aaron had done to sort of sell PJ to me is he sent PJ some of our #1 selling product. And yes, IronMag Labs #1 selling product, Super DMZ. And PJ made this little gym video. And at the time, PJ Braun, if anybody knew him back then, was huge. And so that sold me. And so we brought PJ Braun on board, or I should say I did. And he became sort of the face of IronMag Labs. And then it just sort of went from there.
And let me ask you a question now. So I got scared because I'm looking in the news and I see IronMag Labs raided, and I'm like, they sponsor my channel. And I got scared. So I was like, I need to get Robert on here and I want to ask him, what's the story over here? Did you guys get raided, or is this a bunch of bullshit?
Yeah, like usual, a bunch of bullshit. I mean, first of all, that's not even how things work. So this past Monday morning, my company, IronMag Labs, along with 10 other companies, we all received what's called an FDA warning letter. And basically what that is, for those that don't know, it means the FDA has taken notice of something you're selling or a compound you're using that they don't feel is a legal dietary ingredient.
So some of the products that you guys have that you're selling have ingredients that they're now banning now. So they're saying to you that you have to do something about it, correct?
Right. So exactly. So an FDA warning letter is basically, them questioning, some compounds, ingredients you're using that they don't, feel are legal dietary ingredients. And they give you a chance to, if you can dispute it and fight it, if you disagree with them.
Yeah.
And they even tell you that in the letter, if you want to explain to them why you believe they're wrong, for instance. So in this case, the two ingredients that the FDA was concerned about, I guess is the right word, is higamine and hordenine. And what those are is basically, they're herbal botanicals, by the way. They're found in many plants. They're stimulants. They're no different than caffeine, ephedra. They're CNS stimulants. Yeah, and this isn't the first time we've received an FDA warning letter. And for the record, IronMag Labs has never been raided. The reason a company will get raided is if you ignore the FDA warning letters. Then ultimately, well, they're not going to even raid you at that point. They're probably going to send you another letter and give you another chance to respond. But if you continue to ignore the FDA, then yeah, ultimately it can result in an FDA raid. And then that will probably be followed up by indictments, being charged with a federal crime.
Which actually reminds me of the case of Blackstone, because I remember they ignored those FDA warnings originally, and that's probably what landed them there. And that actually leads up to my next question for you, which is Aaron and PJ, they're both in prison. Did you have anything to do with them getting in prison, or what was the story with all of that?
Well, just to backtrack a little bit, exactly what I was just talking about, and this was after I sold my interest in Blackstone Labs, which was in 2014, by the way. Aaron and PJ did receive multiple FDA warning letters, and they ignored them. And to make matters worse, PJ Braun actually made a YouTube video saying, and I quote, "fuck the FDA." And I later found out they saw that video.
Oh, wow. So that's what ended up, yeah, that doesn't help your situation when you're going and saying, fuck the FDA. In the meantime, you're under investigation.
Yeah, first of all, the government does not like when you ignore them, and they certainly don't like when you don't comply. So not only did they ignore those FDA warning letters, which I don't know the exact dates of those, probably back around thinking 2015. I was no longer involved with Blackstone at that time. But they did receive FDA warning letters. They ignored them, and Blackstone Labs was raided. And I do remember them making up some story about why they were raided, which was not true. But we're not going to get into that right now. But that's sort of the chain of events. You get the FDA warning letter. If you don't correct or address the concerns of the FDA and formally respond to them, meaning a written letter, not an email, you have to formally respond to the FDA, letting them know how you've addressed and corrected the issues, or if you want to dispute them, you're welcome to do that too, and they'll listen to you. In the case of this FDA warning letter, We've already complied. We've already taken down 3 products. 2 of them that we're going to have to reformulate and remove the compounds higanamine and hordenine, and we will, give a formal response. And typically that's the end of it. Like, again, we've had FDA warning letters in the past, and no, we've never been raided. I know that's been said before in the past. We've never been raided because I don't ignore FDA warning letters.
Yeah, I mean, if you ignore them, yeah, you end up, that's where the trouble starts. You don't ignore letters like that. You don't just throw them out or curse them out. You know what I mean?
Make a YouTube
handle
video
them the way you're supposed to be responsibly.
Or make a YouTube video saying "fuck the FDA." That certainly is not a good idea.
Robert, too. I know you have a whole history with Blackstone Labs, PJ and Aaron, that we're not even getting into in this video, and I'd like to get you back on again, where we could go over a lot of the different things, because I know we've talked off the record on a lot of the different things, and I think it would be nice to touch on, because I think the audience can get some insight on exactly what happened with that case and the information that you can give, and also the ins and outs of the supplement industry that people just don't know what's involved in it. You know what I mean? So I think it'll be nice to get you back on, and I want to thank you so much for coming on, Robert. And also thank you for sponsoring this channel, because like I was saying in the beginning, not only are you an awesome dude, but you're helping me. Yeah, you're helping me make more videos, and you make great supplements. So you guys want to support this channel, take a look at the supplements that Robert is formulating. He's a genius with this stuff. And I'm honored to have you as a sponsor on this channel. I appreciate you. So thank you so much, Robert, for coming on. Anything else you want to say before I let you go?
Thank you for having me, and I'm very happy to sponsor the channel. I like what you do, and yes, and we are going to do a much longer interview going over everything involving me, Aaron Singerman, PJ Braun, and Blackstone Labs. And I think a lot of people are going to be shocked and interested and shocked to hear everything I have to say, which will all be factual.
All right, Robert. Well, thank you so much, and we will talk soon. And everybody, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for another interview.